All right, if I could have everyone's attention, it's certainly a good afternoon to see everyone. Another packed house, so we certainly appreciate your participation in this process. I have 3 o'clock, so clerk, let's please call the roll.
Representative Witt?
Here.
Representative Shaver? Here. Representative Hollis?
Present.
Representative Treadaway? Here. Representative Brown? Here. Representative Harbison?
Here.
Representative Morris?
Here.
Representative Holt Jones?
Here.
Representative Rafferty?
Here.
Representative Robertson?
Here.
Representative Klaus? You have a quorum.
All right, members, just a few housekeeping items before we move forward, as I always do prior to our meetings. I ask that the audience members please silence your cell phones at this time. I do want to take a moment to say thank you for all the participants yesterday in the public hearing. I thought it was very informative. We had a lot of good information. A lot of people across the state traveled a long ways to be with us and visit with our committee yesterday, and I certainly appreciate them making that trip, and hopefully they had safe travels back home. Quick housekeeping on the committee side here. Committee members will be acknowledged by the chair to ask questions or to make comments to the bill sponsor. Amendments will be permitted today, and as always, can be only offered by a member of our committee. With that being said, I'll turn the floor over to Representative Blackshear and allow members to ask questions after his presentation on HB 151.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the recognition, and committee members. We discussed 151 yesterday in the public hearing, which is the CA relating to the comprehensive gaming package. And I guess I'll just give you guys the opportunity now to ask any questions you may have on that constitutional amendment.
Yeah, Representative Treadway, you're recognized.
On the Constitution Amendment, I think we're going to get together at some time today, correct?
Yes.
But I think on the Constitutional Amendment, I don't know which, these amendments were just delivered to me, so I'm not going to be offering them here, but I did want to discuss them with you. I think in a constitutional, as at the Enabling Act, we talked about extending for 2 years folks that are to continue operating. Is that correct?
1/1/2027.
Okay. I've got a big issue about that. We've talked about it, but for those who haven't heard it, for over a year, I have worked very hard to shut them down in Jefferson County. We've made great strides in doing that. I do not want to see somebody being rewarded for operating an illegal establishment. Some have cranked back up because they have seen this piece of legislation that allows, they think, that will give them 2 years. I'm satisfied with our talks that we're going to follow up with, that there's something in here that I would hope that would prevent that. Correct?
And I would think, and if you mind, might I share that one particular one? And we can go in more details once you and I talk one-on-one. But in the CA, there's 4 specific things that we detailed in this piece of legislation that a minimum that the Gaming Commission must consider when wanting to issue one of those temporary licenses to continue through 1/1/27. And it's on page, if you have the bill, page 5 of the Constitutional Amendment, line 118. Provision number 1 provides the names and addresses of its principal owners and investors, business records, and other information required by the commission. There's three others, but I think Representative Treadaway, that's the one that would probably hit their home, the business records, and also any other specific information that will be required. Page 5, line 118.
Okay, so you're telling me that would prevent these individuals that have been operating, that would prevent them from getting a...
So a lot of ones, under my belief and opinion, that ones as you're such talking about that maybe potentially just pop back up thinking they may get a temporary license, probably be pretty difficult to, number one, would they want to divulge their principal owners and investors? Number one, it's questionable. But what business records would they have if they just started back up, say, February the 7th or February the 8th? So I think you would have some discretions around that. But again, the commission will have the parameters to expand upon that as well. And just remember, any policies and procedures that are set by that gaming commission has to come back through the legislative council for approval as well too. So things can be adjusted there as well.
Okay, we'll talk more about it. My position is that they don't even need to address it. These folks are running illegally. They're not running bingo. The Alabama Supreme Court has ruled they're illegal, and they should not be rewarded to continue illegal activities at any of these locations. So that's my position on that, but I appreciate your time on that. We'll follow up more because I want to hear more about it. My goal is to make sure that doesn't happen.
Absolutely understood.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I have an amendment.
yeah, present your amendment.
It's an amendment to House Bill 151, replace line 64 on page 3 with the following: tribal lands, to add section 65-05 to the Constitution of Alabama.
Hold up. I don't have that. Somebody give me that? All right, and what page? I'm sorry. Can you give me the right page again? Okay, I got it. Replace line 64, page 3. Go ahead.
And one second. I'll start from the beginning. Replace line 64 on page 3 with the following: tribal lands, to add section 65-05 to the Constitution of Alabama of 2022, to provide for the authority of the legislature to grant jurisdiction to a court to hear matters concerning gaming, and to repeal sections 8-7-00, 20-7.00, 28-7.00. Replace line 131 on page 5 with the following: Part 2, sections 6501, 6502, 6503, 6504, and 6505R. Replace line 194 on page 7 with the following: jurisdiction of federal court, section 65-05. Notwithstanding any other provision of this Constitution, the legislature by general law may grant original jurisdiction to any court in the state of Alabama, including any appellate court, to hear matters concerning gaming, including matters in which the commission or lottery corporation or their members, officers, employees, or agents are named parties. And I'll defer to the bill sponsor to speak on this amendment.
I would take this as a friendly amendment, and what this addresses is just making sure that we're shoring up the language around the jurisdiction of the authorities when it comes to the Civil Court of Criminal Appeals. This actually came in some conversations with that court. So I would accept this as a friendly amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We've heard the bill sponsor's response. Do I hear a motion?
I move to accept the amendment.
Representative Shaver moves to accept the amendment.
Second.
They have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? The amendment is adopted. Moving on, back on to the bill of HB 151. Any members have any other further questions? Representative Rafferty?
I just have one kind of general question here, and I think it's one that many of us here on the committee and many of our colleagues have been asked, and it deals with, there's something that the media and what our constituents might term a simple lottery bill. Can you go through and just take a moment to let me know, kind of like in your opinion, why we can't just do that?
Well, I chuckle when you use the word simple. With all due respect around it, it's not simple, and that's part of the problem, in my opinion. And passing just a simple lottery, in my opinion, only muddies the waters even more than they already are. That doesn't address the 18 CAs that are existing. That doesn't address all the additional illegal establishments that even Representative Chairman Treadaway was referencing a moment ago. It doesn't address those. It doesn't address the increased penalties. It doesn't discuss and solve the problem of who's going to enforce the laws. How does that happen? So I think personally where we are now, it's always been my belief that a holistic approach is the only way we're ever going to be able to tackle it and make a lottery part of that very convoluted and difficult process.
Representative Klaus.
I move to give the bill a favorable report as amended.
Okay. We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition?
No.
The ayes have it. HB 151 has a favorable report as amended. Now, Representative Blackshear, we are on HB 152. If you would give just a brief synopsis of that, as we heard a lot of testimony yesterday regarding that.
HB 152 is actually the enabling legislation that will go into backfill HB 151. Since we moved on from that now, this gives all the parameters and more details around, basically, best way to describe it's filling in the boxes of what the Alabama Gaming Commission looks like, its duties, responsibilities, the executive director, how that's set up, the lottery corporation, how that's set up, all the definitions of the games that are available, the locations of the license in the counties, all the way down to how the distributions of the funds would be considered. So I'll entertain any questions, Mr. Chairman, if you have any.
Members, do we have any questions for HB 152 this time? Representative Treadway, you're recognized.
Go to page 40 for me. Section B, what I would like to see this area rewritten, unless you can give me an explanation as to why we're not opening the bidding. I would like to see areas 2, 5, and 6 taken out. If somebody came in any one of these locations to honestly bid, number 2, number 5, and number 6 seems to be selecting a local individual to win the bid. Even if I had $500 million on the table for that location. So this is an amendment I'm working on and I'm not ready for here because it was just delivered and I haven't looked through it. But that area gives me a great concern. I think the state, if we're going to do this, can have a windfall of money to take care of a lot of issues here just on the license. That seems to be very problematic to me. What's your opinion on that?
I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree on that as we go through this process, and I would love to discuss your amendment with you more. There are 11 qualifiers in this that the Gaming Commission shall consider, and this is 3 of the 11, so it's more of a holistic approach, just not those 3. But I think it kind of ties back on to what my opinion was on the simple lottery question from Representative Rattery. This is a convoluted situation we have in this state, and it's not going to take a simple solution. But there are people that are operating today that on the local levels in some of those counties that have CAs, they believe, since the people spoke on that they are legally operating. To understand your position, the Supreme Court rulings, what we've seen, AG opinions as well too, that are different than that, but still boots on the ground in those communities, they think they are legal by the vote of the people. And there have been some investments made by people across the state. But that's only part of it. If we're truly doing an open bid where everybody has an opportunity, there are people that invested hundreds of millions of dollars in all of this, and that could be potentially, if they so choose to bid, potentially part of their bid process. And again, that's just my opinion. I've seen us working through this process.
These are people who are not running legal machines. They've been operating illegally. They have made millions over the years, haven't paid their taxes. And this language right here rewards them for that. The state deserves better. Open it up. You say shall. I'm not going to read 2, 5, and 6. There's no way you can tell me that that does not select individuals in the current form. I'm hoping we can work this out on the House floor. We'll talk more about it later.
Thank you, Representative Treadway. Representative Brown.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment.
All right, we'll accept the amendment. Representative Brown.
We'll place line 245 on page 9 with the following. Then students. Number 3, a domestic fraternal society, order, or association under 26 USC 501c10 that devotes its net earnings exclusively to religious, charitable, scientific, literary, educational, or fraternal purposes. Replace lines 558 through 559 on page 20 with the following. May not have a financial interest in any of the following. Replace line 580 on page 21 with the following. Section 1, any member of the commission may be removed for cause by his. Replace line 739 on page 27 with the following: not have a financial interest in any. Replace line 776 on page 28 with the following: financial interest in any of the. Replace lines 1089 through 1095 on page 39 with the following: Lowndes County. Replace lines 2138 on page 77 with the following: Section G, meetings of the board shall be subject to the. Replace lines 2525 through 2526 on page 91 with the following: Section 4, any spouse, child, brother, sister, or parent. Replace lines 2725 through 2727 on page 98 with the following: Section C, a lottery retailer shall receive 7% of the sales of lottery tickets sold by the lottery retailer. Replace line 3012 on page 108 with the following: enforcement purposes of the respective Sheriff's Department, all monies received by a county commission under this subdivision shall be distributed within 30 days of receipt to the respective sheriff's office to be expended at his or her discretion. A county commission shall not retain any portion of monies received pursuant to this subdivision. The county commission shall not be responsible for the expenditure of any monies received pursuant to this subdivision. All funds received by a sheriff under this subdivision shall be in addition to any other funding sources for the sheriff and may not reduce or replace those funds. Replace line 3041 on page 109 with the following: liable for all state and local property taxes, lodging taxes, tobacco taxes. Replace line 3215 on page 115 with the following: Court of Civil Appeals and all expenses associated with the compensation shall be paid out of the Gaming Trust Fund as operating expenses of the Alabama Gaming Commission. Mr. Chairman, I defer to the bill sponsor for any questions.
All right, so let's walk back through them now and kind of give you the gist behind each one of them. The first one is when we had when we talked about the traditional raffles or your traditional bingo, that would be one of the 5 gaming activities that would be allowed. One thing we left off, we wanted to block the local nonprofits, and one thing we left out is 501c10s, which are your Masons, your fraternal police, and your shrine clubs. So we're just pulling them back in to make sure we weren't affecting the local things they were trying to do, like their traditional bingo things they were doing in your local communities. The next one is about, if you know, in the original bill we had in there that nobody working the Gaming Commission or that falls underneath there, down to the executive director and the deputy director, could have no more than 1% vested interest in any gaming establishments. We've struck that back to 0 interest within the gaming establishments on that. And we also added back in there that for members to be removed by the Gaming Commission, they can still be removed by their appointed authority. However, they must have 4 calls to remove them from that board. The next one, which was I think Representative Brown, page 27, line 739, that was just another cleanup of removing the 1%, making it to 0. Along with page 28, line 776, that was also another moving it from 1% to 0. The next one on page 39, the 1089 through 1095. If you remember, there was that 5-year block on Lowndes in Houston County that they didn't get a license in those 5 years, that it could move somewhere else in the state. We've removed that years. They're staying in Lowndes and they're staying in Houston. So that way they're staying in there. So now your bill will have that the only fluctuation that any license can be moved throughout the entire state is tied to the compact, which right now in the enabling is northeast portion of the state. Also, the next one, page 77, line 2138, meetings of the board. It had commission. We have just struck commission and put board. Also on the next one, page 91, lines 2525 through 2526, we're trying to be very, very strict on who could and couldn't play the lottery. Well, we might have gone a little bit too far, because basically if you worked somewhere, your employer sold lottery tickets, you couldn't play the lottery at all. Not just as yours. So if you worked at the Publix and you sold lottery tickets, you couldn't play on your non-shift times. So that's removing that to say, you can play the lottery if you so choose to. Also in there, page 98, line 2725 through 2727, the original thought process is, and we just overlooked this one, was where we were going to allow the Gaming Commission and the Lottery Board to determine and negotiate with the Retail Association, the retailers, and your C-stores of what will be the percent sharing of the total lottery ticket sales they have. Well, in the piece of legislation it has, they will receive 1% bonus. So we felt like we need to go in and clean that up. So we have removed that 1% bonus, and they'll get a straight 7% of the lottery ticket sales they have at their stores. They get to keep that. And then the last one, well, the next one is page 108, lines 3012. This is around that 10% distribution of sports wagering as it goes to the sheriffs. We wanted to make sure that this money, it has to go through the county commissions. We want to make sure the county commissions understand this money isn't in lieu of additional fundings that you're giving your sheriff's department. This money must be transferred in addition to what you're already budgeting on the local level for those 67 sheriffs. And I think one, I don't have the other. The last one was around, the two more left. One came from Department of Revenue when we were around the net gaming's revenue definition, and we were making sure we were spelling out what outside taxes are still applicable. Well, tobacco tax was excluded, so we're making sure tobacco tax is back in the legislation, so it's clear they have to pay that. And then the final one is just clean up from what I mentioned in the one amendment on the CA of the Court of Civil Appeals. This just lets you know that they had their own budget. And if they have to hear a case relating to gaming, that the gaming proceeds should pay for that, and it shouldn't come out of their budgets at their court.
Yep. Thank you, Representative Blackshear. I just want to make a couple of comments regarding the amendment and the support that I have for the amendment. And there are 4 or 5 things that I'd like to really touch on that our audience remembers and our committee members can see that we've strengthened this bill, and these are technical amendments that we've seen that again add strength to the bill. One of those right off the bat would be, originally in that bill, we had 1% ownership, and that now is 0 financial interest in any of the following things that the commission may do there, or have ownership in facilities. So that is now at 0. Second of all, any member of the commission can be removed now for cause. That was not in there. We wanted to make sure and ensure that there was a cause for that commission member to be removed. Number 3, and I will read the bill for those that in the audience that are trying to follow along with pages, line numbers, etc. 2 licenses shall be reserved for initial issuance in the following counties: 1 in Houston County and 1 in Lowndes County, period. And that's where they will be. Number 4, a lottery retailer shall receive 7% of the sales lottery tickets. That was an oversight on our part, and certainly appreciate the help of some of our fellow legislators bringing that to our attention. And then last but not least, certainly, is our sheriff's department. So the proceeds that are being sent over to our sports betting, from our sports betting revenues, that is now being sent to the sheriff's departments at 10%. So those are some things that I think only strengthen the bill and were some good additions. And Representative Brown, thank you for offering this amendment and coming up with many of these great ideas. So we certainly do support that. Thank you. Any further questions regarding Representative Hollis?
It's not really a question. It's a statement, my statement. And you know, we have so many of our constituents that travel to the state line, outside the state, for lottery tickets, to go gaming, and people going to do what they're going to do. And when they do this, it puts so much money into the other states, where we're putting kids in other states through schools, we're doing their infrastructure, so on. And I consider myself, well, no, I am a Christian. and I read all the time, but there's not one place in that Bible that is speak against gambling. If it is, somebody please show it to me. And I just had to put that out there because I don't like when people are being judged and people are telling people where they're going because they think in a certain way. And my constituent, I'm all up in my communities, and my folks want this bill. And I say all this, Mr. Chair, at the appropriate time. I would like to make a motion as the bill is amended for HB 192.
So, yeah, let's vote on the amendment first. Yeah, I have one question, but I'll let you do that.
However you want to do it.
Yeah, Representative Klaus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the amendment there, to replacing lines 1089 through 1095 on page 39, where we just stop it after Lowndes County. Is that we're still, I'm trying to go back to that's the local approval under section 413152. I guess that is still.
It includes Houston as well.
I know that, but it still includes the part where the commissions can either have to approve or either put it to a vote of the people.
Yes.
For those counties?
Yeah, absolutely. So nothing changes from the county commission or the city councils passing a resolution to have it in those two counties or a vote of the people.
Okay.
That stays in.
All right.
And that stays in place. Thank you, Chairman Klaus, for that question. That stays in place for all 7 locations.
Okay.
Any further questions? So we're still on Representative Treadway.
And we've talked about this, so I'm not going to belate it, but, I have a real concern of the checks and balances with the law enforcement arm. Not with the bill, with the penalties we worked on. I appreciate allowing that. And we've raised all that. But the check and balances of the law enforcement arm is something I think if you allow me to work with you on that, I think we can tighten that up before it gets to the floor.
Okay.
All right, still on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the amendment.
Okay, thank you. We have a first, second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of adopting the amendment, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, signify by saying no. The amendment now is adopted, and we are back on HB 152. Do I have a motion for a favorable report on HB 152 as amended? Representative Hollis makes a motion. Do I have a second? We have a second by Representative Morris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
The bill has been adopted. HB 152 receives a favorable report as amended. Representative Blackshear, thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Chairman Witten.
Thank you,
members.
committee members. Motion, we're adjourned.